Okay, so the important question arises. In the world where black hat hackers tend to attack and destroy, is there anything we can do about that? Well, we already know we can prevent them in many cases, and we will cover certain methods of stopping and preventing attacks, but then comes the next question. Can we actually catch them? Well, this can be a lot harder than preventing them. Plus, there are certain factors to take into consideration when catching a black hat hacker. These would be three main things. First one is how good a hacker is. This one is of course important because if a hacker is just running some scripts and has no idea what he is doing, then eventually he will leave trace and clues behind which will lead back to him. The second thing, and probably the biggest reason hackers get caught, is because they are careless. Or should I say they become careless with time. Some of the biggest black hat hackers got caught due to not being careful enough, and after a certain time, they don't feel threatened, so they don't pay attention to small details like they did before. Nowadays, you can get traced due to many reasons, not using, for example, layered spoofing protection, not using proxies, or not anonymizing your scans and your exploits. Perhaps visiting a physical location too often from where you run these attacks can also lead to you getting caught. And another funny thing that might get a hacker caught is disclosing important information on social media. And this one is a no-brainer, but don't brag about things that you did illegally. It will eventually lead to you getting caught. But anyways, that's what makes a cybersecurity expert's life easier, right? Now, the reality is that 90% or more of hackers don't ever get caught, as long as they don't try to inflict a massive damage and as long as they don't try to attack governments and big companies. They never really get caught since it is not possible to keep an eye on every cyber attack that happens. And last thing is that it's also important what exactly they did on the system that they hacked. The more action you perform on the target, the higher the probability that you left a trace behind, which can later be used to find you. That's why far more important thing than trying to catch a hacker is trying to prevent a hacker from actually hacking the system. However, if your preventing strategy is all set, and you have set up all the security measures to secure your network, then you can focus further on actually figuring out when your network is being targeted and maybe even try to figure out by who. Several things will help you do this. I've picked up a few for now, and we will dissect all of them later in the course. These are having logs, setting up honeypots, and performing monitoring often. Now, each of these helps you out in both preventing an attack and figuring out at what time is attack taking place. First thing we have are logs. Logs help you in many things and not just in security. You can think of them as a book that keeps all the data regarding some server or some software. They can help you find if an error occurs somewhere, and they can also help you find whether the software that you're reading logs from is acting weird and perhaps not as it should be. This would be a good indicator that something is wrong and that someone might be doing something malicious. Next term that most of you who are new in cybersecurity probably haven't heard of yet are honeypots. Honeypots are systems that look similar to a real system which are set as a decoy for an attacker. Usually a honeypot server is purposely made vulnerable for an attacker to fall for. Honeypots should be well divided from the main assets, and usually they are equipped with logging and monitoring tools to help catch the hacker once he interferes with the honeypot. And this brings us to the third thing, which is monitoring. It literally doesn't matter if you have logging and honeypot set if you have nobody who is periodically taking a look at these logs and monitoring everything on the network. If nobody does this, then even if something is caught in the logs, it will go unnoticed since nobody took a look at it. Okay, Now that we talked briefly about hackers in this section, it's time to move on to a little more technical section of this course where we're going to discuss vulnerabilities. See you there.